Hello, everyone. I'd like to welcome everyone to the June meeting of the Murfreesboro Parks and Recreation Commission. And we'll call this meeting to order. We'll start off with asking Dr. Gloria Bonner if she'll lead us in prayer and pledge, please.
Thank you. Thank you. And before I begin the prayer, I'd like to recognize Mr. Bill Allen for his courage and bravery as we approach D-Day observation in this nation at the very tender age of 18. He made a lot of our freedoms possible. So, Mr. Bill, we thank you so much for your service and your family.
You're very kind. Thank you so much.
May we pray. Thank you, Father, for the privilege to begin each day with you. Bless this gathering of fellow Parks and Rec commissioners today. Please help us to see those in need and give us the strength and wisdom to serve our community as we should. Help us to lift the burdens of others while we maintain the dignity of mankind. Soften our hearts to be sensitive and loving as we serve together as community stakeholders. In your Son's name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Dr. Bonner. So our first item of business is looking at the minutes from last month's meeting. And if you'll do that, and then I'll accept a motion to approve.
The minutes look to be in order, and if there's no questions or comments, I will move for approval.
Second. I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? There are none. Thank you, sir. All right, new business right off the bat. Angela, you're going to give us an update on the master plan.
Yes, sir. We are very excited about the future of Murfreesboro Parks and Recreation. And if you recall, at our last meeting, we discussed our comprehensive master plan, that follow-up piece to the 2035, where this group really engages with the directions that we are traveling as a department. We have had our kickoff meeting with Mr. Williams and myself and the project manager, Kevin Gunther from Reagan Smith, and have the schedule that we passed out in front of you to really talk about what the next few months look like. Make sure with your busy schedules you can get some things on your calendar as a part of that, and we'll work with you in the upcoming months at several different points. We discussed the importance of a steering committee in a process like this, and with your agreement, this group is already in place to steer us. So we did not want to schedule and direct a committee to do what the diversity and the impact and the roles that each of you play already as you guide that process. We'll be reaching out to other stakeholders and focus groups in the community at large and really looking to engage in a lot of different directions, but wanted to bring this to you. Mr. Jerningen couldn't be here today, but he and I also had a conversation about the role that this commission will serve in guiding us and advising us and directing us moving forward.
Great. Any questions for Angela? Awesome. We look forward. Thank you
So much.
Yes, thank you.
It's going to be a great process.
Yes, yes. All right, next item. Looks like we're looking at a new, soccer tournament for Labor Day. And presenting on that, Thomas. Tell us about it.
Good afternoon, members of the commission. Siegel Park has played host for several years now to the Tennessee Cup, which is a tournament that brought in several teams from around the country, had a significant economic impact. But over the last several years, several issues have plagued the tournament, and event organizers decided back in January to relocate that event further south. That gave us an opportunity to explore other options for tournaments. We were able to partner with the Murfreesboro Soccer Club, Tennessee State Soccer, and the new Nashville Football Club to develop a tournament for that Labor Day weekend that is more partners with our partners and the folks that we work with on a regular basis, as opposed to an outside organization coming in and running the tournament. So we're very excited about this event. Our local clubs will be able to be a part of it and see some financial benefits from it as well. And the state has confirmed that, working with the Nashville Football Club, that they will be able to bring in several out-of-town teams and be competitive, if not the first year, but within the first few years of the tournament with the previous tournament that was there. We're seeking approval today to host this tournament at Siegel Park, Labor Day weekend, with the partnership of Murfreesboro Soccer Club, the Nashville Football Club, and the Tennessee State Soccer Association. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer.
Just to clarify, the agreement is a 3-year.
Right. It's a 3-year agreement, so that allows them secure teams and secure things for several years. And we started doing that a few years back because it helped us land a lot bigger tournaments. They're looking for that commitment. A lot of them are. So, and we work, as you know, Charlie, we host the Tennessee State Cups, both the spring and the fall. So we work with Tennessee State Soccer on a regular basis with ODP and other events they host. So we're very confident that they're going to put on a good event. It'll be good for everybody.
Could you have the estimated economic impact? Could you run that formula for the next meeting?
Absolutely. We absolutely can. The biggest thing here will be the partners coming together. Historically, Murfreesboro Soccer Club brings in about 30% of the teams out of town. The others are local teams for their big tournaments. They have anywhere from 80 to 100 teams. So with their numbers, they look at about a $300,000 to $400,000 economic impact each time they have that tournament, which is twice a year. So I think we can run the numbers. All of it's going to be projections on how many out-of-town teams we have. We can say we have a tournament with 100 teams. If we assume they're all out of town, we can give you really big economic impact numbers. But realistically, if they're from Smyrna or surrounding areas and driving in, driving out, we may not get a hamburger out of them. So we'll try to do as accurately as we can. The Chamber has a really good formula for us to calculate that. So I'll try to get more information about how many out-of-town teams are anticipated for this one. The previous tournament, at its height, which it had 200 teams, and this has been probably 5 years ago, the estimated economic impact for that tournament was right at $3 million. And that was the Chamber of Commerce estimation, not the event organizers. Theirs is usually double. So I would say to start with this one as a projection, and we'll verify numbers and try to get a more accurate projection. But I think the first year we can easily assume we would have a $1 to $1.5 million economic impact just based on the fact that it's a 4-day tournament. So even folks from Goodlettsville or some of those areas are more typical to, or they're more likely to stay in Murfreesboro for a 4-day event as opposed to a 2-day.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I'll just give my 2 cents. I know most of the people with MSC. I've been involved with them for 16 years now. My wife has been and is a manager of a team now for the last 16 years. She's a whiz at that stuff, and she was on the board for a long time too. And they're very excited about this opportunity. You know, so it is an outside entity that will be running it. But the support, the concessions, parking, is that still MSC dollars?
Absolutely.
That comes in, so that does stay local. That's not going anywhere. Tennessee State Soccer is wonderful to work with. We've worked with them for many, many years now. Definitely a partner, not a person just looking to do things. Also, the time of year, Labor Day, is right before the state tournaments start. And the last thing a team from Murfreesboro wants to do is play the team that they're going to play next week in the state tournament. So the idea of going away Labor Day weekend is something that not only people in Tennessee want, but people in the neighboring states as well. So everybody's looking for that place to go outside of their state so they can play other teams to get ready for their state tournaments. So Labor Day, first of all, is the prime weekend to do things, and I'm just glad it's going to be people that we now know and will benefit from it. So I've heard great positive things from a lot of the board members, this does sound like something that's I'm excited for it.
Well, and with the new professional team starting next year, we're ground level getting in with them and having a partnership with them so that we can continue that relationship for many years to come.
Any other questions for Thomas? All right, I'll accept a motion that we approve this new agreement, soccer agreement.
I move approval.
Do I have a second?
Second?
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any not in favor? There are none. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Thomas. Sound like a win-win-win. Okay, next item on the agenda, we're going to have Sammy Maxey tell us about a new youth summer volleyball camp. Hello, Sammy.
Good afternoon. We've had the opportunity to put in a new camp at the end of July. This would be July 30th through August 3rd. We've had a pretty big interest in our volleyball league. We've had 8 teams last year, and now we have 15, so the interest is pretty increasing. And so with that, we'd want to add that in. We'd have it just kind of like sports camp. So at sports camps, we have the morning just with all our sports, and then in the afternoon, we would go to the pool. That's how we kind of want to set up the volleyball camp. So with that, we would do skills and drills in the morning, then we'd have scrimmages, and then at 12, we would go to the pool. And we're looking to get approval with the $75 fee it's the same as the sports camp.
Let me add, if I could, our summer camp programs as a whole this summer have been incredibly, a lot of interest, a lot of field camps, a lot of waiting lists, and compliments to the athletic division as a whole for stepping up and trying to serve as many people as possible. When we really looked at what we had and if we had any time left, what else they were willing to step up and offer to the community has been absolutely stellar. Adding another sports camp to the schedule, squeezing it in, and really making sure that more kids in Murfreesboro had a athletic camp experience has been a real treat.
Any questions? Do I have a motion that we accept this new program?
I move approval.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? There are none. Thank you, Sammy. I know these programs all fill up, so it's a great thing. Thomas, looks like you're back up. Tell us about a hot air balloon festival.
Well, last year played host to the first ever hot air balloon festival in Murfreesboro. It was held at Oakland's Manor, and it was a huge success. Event organizers were extremely happy with the turnout and the ticket sales. I think they sold most of the tickets before the actual event. So it was extremely popular, but they were very limited on space and what they could do. So they identified Richard Siegel Park as a great place to host that event. Their date is June 30th, so we've made sure to clear all youth activities or all activities in the park. With the addition of the lights in our youth complex or on the upper end fields, that provides a great green space where once the event festival's over, they take the balloons up at sunset. So the festival kind of ends after sunset. The big challenge they had last year was breaking all the balloons and stuff down in the dark. So being able to turn the lights on so it help them to get out, and they'll be able to take approximately twice as many people this year as they were able last year for this event. So we're seeking approval for that, but in addition, they would like to be able to have beer sales. We've done this at Siegel Park before for adult soccer tournaments. They would have to go through all regulations and all codes associated with that, and all permitting through city ordinances. But we think that'll be a good addition to the event. And like I said, we've made sure to clear all youth activities. It is a special event separate and apart from the athletic events that take place there. I'll answer any questions.
Yes. First of all, I've had a chance to go up in hot air balloons several times in New Mexico and in Tennessee. It is fantastic. Make it a part of your summer plan. It's a good time. How many balloons do you think will be participating?
Well, last year they were, 16? Was it?
They were limited last year. I think they had a total, of 8 or 10 balloons. And only one of those they do the tethered rides in. The other ones, it's a glow festival, so they light them up at dark. And it's a really cool thing. So I don't know the exact number this year, but I know there's more space, and the more they can get in, the more of a draw it is.
When I was talking with the event organizers, he had mentioned the number 16, that they had 16 balloons, and so maybe they didn't get them all up last year because the space was so small. But I think Siegel Park will be plenty of space for them, and it should be really good for the community.
This is an event they used to host annually in Franklin, and they decided to move it to Murfreesboro, and it's well received, and we look forward to hosting it again.
Thomas, are we completely free of any liability in case of accident of one of them?
Absolutely. We'll sign a use agreement with them similar to every other partnership we do or event, and we'll require that $2 million insurance policy for that event.
I think our vice chair should go up on the first one, don't you?
It's not happening.
Just wave.
I don't care. Tim can go up.
It's either that or the polar bear plunge. You get to choose.
I'm dipping. So, yeah. So,
I move to approve this event.
do I have a second?
Second?
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? There are none. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thomas. Sounds like fun. Good luck, Tim.
It is fun. I promise you.
Well, mine's not near as exciting as a hot air balloon.
Hello, Susan.
Hi, how are y'all doing this afternoon?
We're great.
I am excited to tell you about a new program we want to start in the theater. I would love to start a homeschool theater program. We have a large homeschool community here in Murfreesboro that our evening does not, the homeschoolers usually don't get out in the evening. And with this program, we want to give them the opportunity to experience the theater like they are unable to do at this point. It also enables us to reach the community around Patterson and our city schools. Well, 2 years ago, we tried to tour our city elementary schools with one of our plays, and we had to go to the board of directors to get excuses for all of our kids because they're middle school and high school kids that were doing the touring, and we had to get excuses because they had to miss 3 days of school to go to the elementary schools. And by using our homeschool group, we can actually do that without having to worry about getting excuses and be able to offer that to our city elementary schools. And we are wanting to do the production of Winnie the Pooh, which we also pair with reading and Read to Succeed and all of those things. Do you have any questions?
Sounds good. Any questions for Susan? Do I have a motion to approve the program for a homeschool theater?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second?
There he is. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? There are none. Thank you, Susan.
Thank
Looks
you.
like you're still on the podium.
I am still on the podium today. We have been asked by Parfait Studios for Perform Murfreesboro to perform at the Wilson County Fair. There will be a stage set up, and we will take our season reveal kids. It's a class that we do every January to present our next season. There's usually 18, however many kids come to the classes who we cast to reveal our next season, and adding on our leads for the previous season and taking them to perform at the Wilson County Fair in August. We'll be set up on a little stage, I think across from the animals. But it gets our name out there and let our kids have a great opportunity. They get free tickets to the fair. So, do you have any questions?
That's fine. How many kids?
I think we have a total of between 20 and 22. Just a small number.
20 at $15 a piece, so we're looking at $300 or something like that.
Something like that.
the time commitment for the kids is, what is it, a 2-day, is it a 1-day event?
It's a 1-day event. They get to, they show up, it's a 30-minute performance on the stage, and then they can spend the rest of the day at the fair. Most of our kids already have these T-shirts. These are the T-shirts that we wear all the time, our Perform Murfreesboro T-shirts. So there will probably only be 2 or 3 that have outgrown the shirts that they have.
Okay, I'll introduce them. I'll have Chris introduce them. You introduce Chris.
Any other questions for Susan? If not, do I have a motion that we approve this all-star cast or season reveal class to go to the Wilson County Fair?
Move to approve?
Load the bus. Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? There are none. Of course. Thank you, Susan.
Thank you. I also want to invite all of you to come watch one of our shows this year.
Very good.
Thank you.
Sounds like fun. Okay, next item on the agenda. Nate, you're going to tell us about implementation of a mountain bike trail.
Yes, sir. We are very excited to bring this proposal to you. This project has been in works for some time. We began looking at the option for having mountain bikes in our park system since 2016.
Can we interrupt?
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry to interrupt. We have a special treat here. If we can take a pause in our regular agenda with your permission, Mr. Chair.
Certainly.
And welcome this group. Mr. Chris Lilly, in addition to his role as our IT director, is a superstar, and I'll let him tell you more about that.
Wow.
Hey, Chris, you brought a bunch with you, didn't you?
Yes, I did. Brought about 50 children
Well,
from
give them
our
time to all get in here.
Yeah,
city
come on,
school.
get on TV.
Yeah.
It's crowded here. Can we crowded? Go over just a little bit more. They'll come back here too.
Let them fill in behind you there. There you go.
Okay.
Come back here too.
I see.
Okay, this wonderful group is a group of students. It's 50 students that we've been over at Hobgood this whole week, and we're finishing out the week. We're a coding academy. So we've been working on making games. We're making drones. We've been doing experiments in a Tennessee Tech University trailer. There's a tech trailer. It's stocked with over $500,000 worth of technology. So we've been using that, studying VR, and today was our field trip day. So this morning we were looking at the water cycle, how we pull water, use technology to pull water out of Stones River, how do we use technology to treat it, and how we store it. So we went to the water treatment plant, went over to one of the tanks over on Jones, and we saw the technology inside of there. And we're about to tour City Hall and traffic. So we just wanted to come through and say hey. We have a lot of help from Parks and Rec, so we want to say hey and kind of show you the impact that we're making on some of the students and letting them see how technology is applied in all parts of running the city.
Man, awesome, awesome. Chris, thank you for bringing these kids in here. Kids, have you had fun this week? Yeah? Heck, it looks like it. I see smiles on everyone's face. Just a second, yeah.
Can I have just a second? Chris, I appreciate this. I know we talked about this a few years ago, so it's nice to come to fruition. Thank you, Greg Lyles. I saw him someplace, and the outreach team from Murfreesboro City for working, but we're thrilled to partner with you. There's Nikki. I didn't see her back there either, so thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's give these kids a round of applause. Y'all wave at the TV on your way out.
Okay, now we're going to go out this other way. We're going to follow Mr. Rom. He's going to take us to the traffic lab.
Let's just let them run the rest of the meeting.
That's what?
Let them run the rest of the meeting.
Man, that's a big program right there.
That's huge. I was there. He remembers me. I remember you. They're not shy either.
No.
Big deal.
You were at Reeves Rogers, right?
Have you got kids
That's-
like that at Oakwood?
Not quite that young.
Mr. Miller, that's fun. I think we should do that every month.
Yeah,
Yes.
you get my vote. We'll
Yes. Uh-huh.
Very good. Like they're almost out.
Gosh.
I can't top that, Mr. Miller.
No, you're not going to top that one. Okay, Nate.
Safe to say every one of those kids is probably ready to go mountain bike.
I think that's a good segue. Thank you, Councilman. Like we were talking about just a second ago, we're excited to bring this proposal to you. Like I said earlier, this is something that's been in the works for quite some time. We've done a lot of due diligence in this process, a lot of studying, a lot of research. Since 2016, we started looking at the opportunity to have mountain bike trails within our park system. Really, since the inception of this, we've had two goals: to develop mountain bike trails that meet the high standards of any amenity that we have in Parks and Recreation, and also be the least environmentally impactful that we can. Murfreesboro is not the best place to have mountain bike trails, but we think we have a place that will really serve that purpose, and I think we can effectively accomplish and far exceed those two goals. I'm going to give you just kind of a brief overview of the proposal that you have in front of you today. And it's really a three-part proposal. The first one is an agreement with the Southern Off-Road Biking Association to develop approximately 9 miles of trail designed by Griggs & Maloney. We brought Griggs & Maloney, which is an environmental engineering firm, on about 1.5 years, 2 years ago to start this process, and have been a great partner in here. But we want to bring SORBA in. SORBA is a nonprofit organization that work with many municipalities, have built hundreds of miles of trails, and have a good track record of doing so. They're going to utilize both volunteer effort along with some hired professional builders to complete this project. We'll look at starting in October 2018, right in the fall. The second part of this process that we're looking at is a purchase of 3.9 acres that is adjacent to Barfield Crescent Park. It's 202 Hemlock Drive. And this will serve as a trailhead and a designated parking area for the mountain bike trails. This is really crucial for this project because, as you know, Barfield Crescent Park is already very busy. If you go out most any day of the week, especially Friday, Saturday, Sunday, at the Wilderness Station, our parking is slammed. People are parking in the grass, getting stuck, that type of thing. So we wanted to separate, and people who are using the park for hiking or walking or any other purpose wouldn't be affected adversely from having the addition of mountain bike trails at the park. So this 3.9 acres currently has a mobile home on it that will be moved that I can explain a little bit more, but that's going to serve really as our pad for our parking, and it's pretty much ready-made for that. The third part of this proposal is an agreement with Griggs & Maloney to serve as our construction manager for this project. This is critical because we have established environmental control points and then physical control points that we won't go beyond at Barfield Crescent Park that will have minimal trail interaction with hiking trails, and we think that being the designer of the project, it's going to be a very invasive process for them and a hard process to keep control of what's going on, but we think they're up for the job, uniquely prepared to be the best. So funding, as we stand right now, we've got $810,000 that was in the bond money from 2018 and designated for mountain bike trails. So where we anticipate spending money right now, the SORBA agreement that will reimburse for direct costs is $275,000. That's not to exceed $275,000. The property purchase that we're proposing is $156,000, and then our project management, that professional services, is $20,500. There will be some additional cost for signage if we have to do any work on the property after that mobile unit is removed, but we anticipate that that will be very minimal, and we will be well under budget for this project. With that said, I'd like to ask Mr. Maloney from Griggs & Maloney to come up. He's going to give you kind of a brief explanation of the trail system and talk about the environmental concerns regarding the trail system that we've been working on for some time.
Hello, Ryan.
Good afternoon. I'd like to start out where we've been and to get to this point in time, and talk a little bit about the steps that International Mountain Biking Association has defined and to design and plan the trail properly. And a lot of these steps we've already approached and gone past. So you should have an outline in front of you that you can follow along with if you like, and it's going to echo the same things here that I'll discuss. But step one is really about building partnerships for the trail system. One of our first steps was to provide outreach to MTSU, their outdoor recreation department, of course SORBA, who's currently an active partner as well, and the local biking community, as well as users of the park. And so that was one of our first steps, is to understand what the community needs are. Second was really identifying the boundaries. Of course, park boundary is going to be the first major control point of the project. We have to stay on park property. So we looked at the park as a whole and said, and thought the southeast quadrant, about 100 acres of that, would be the least impactful location for this trail system. On the screen there, you can see that southeast quadrant and the network of trails. We also looked at, and Nate alluded to it, shared use versus single use on the trail system. Shared use would involve having hikers and bikers interact with one another. We thought that was a less than desired option, and looked at the single use model to separate the two user groups, and also provide more capacity for trailhead parking with additional trailhead. Item 4 there, step 4 to this process has been identify the control points. Control points can be considered positives, they can be considered negatives, but property boundaries are certainly a control point at large. Where the trail begins is actual control point, the trailhead. And then also natural features, whether it's a sinkhole, whether it's a stream or a sensitive environmental area. And those are items that we want to, where it's appropriate, embrace with the trail, and also avoid where it's not appropriate use of the trail system and mountain biking. The first iteration of this had the trailhead coming off Highway 231. For a lot of reasons, that was revised to the location that's being presented to you guys today for the property purchase. The 231 location had a lot of pitfalls to it. There was going to have to be work within state right-of-way. There was work that was going to require additional site development just to put a parking lot in play there. All those things led to this alternate trailhead location off of Fieldcrest Drive there. We've revised the trail to accommodate the new trailhead, and the figure that was up before embraced that new trailhead location. It didn't alternatively affect the total distance of trail. We're still about 9 miles. And that conceptual plan has identified all the major control points, including trail crossings and areas of grade that we might consider too steep to construct a trail. But the conceptual plan is really just that. When you look at the plan as a whole, there's a lot more work to be done. Field flagging is going to be something that really takes this trail configuration and brings it to life. In the trail configuration you see there's a series of loops. They're all connected through two-way traffic for the bike paths. The loops are going to offer variety. You start at one point and you end at the same point, but you never go over the same ground twice. So that's one benefit of a loop trail. Second is you get to experience a variety of terrain, a variety that provides for different experience levels, and different users are going to range from beginner to advanced that use this trail, and we want to provide a place for everyone to have a part in it. So along those lines, this was developed using GIS contours, and as I alluded to, the real work comes down to when we actually put boots on the ground and we flag that trail corridor before anything's cleared. And we're looking for anything from cultural resources, sensitive habitat. If there's known, I know there's a rattlesnake den, for example, at Barfield Park. We would want to avoid those locations for various reasons. Riparian zones, if there's drains or wetlands or streams. We want to be able to say at the end of this design process and build process that we have done the best job we can possibly do to mitigate any environmental impacts with the construction of the trail. Now, with that said, 9 miles of trail is an environmental impact. Make no mistake about it. But there's a way to do it, and the people we've engaged, whether it's our firm or professional trail builders, are going to put in place a trail system that is sustainable, something that's resilient to erosion, and that was one of the primary goals that we have for this is a sustainable trail, and defined by, it protects the environment, meets the needs of its users, requires little maintenance, and really minimizes any conflict between user groups. So we're in a process now. If you look at your outline, we're really between steps 8 and 9. We flagged a portion of the trail. About 2.5 miles have been flagged to date. There was a pause in that flagging due to the uncertainty about the trailhead location, and so that can resume pending any approval today that's gained, as well as really developing that construction plan, and the memorandum of understanding or use between SORB and the city would define that next step to the construction plan. We're excited about our role. We're excited about the opportunity to identify sensitive areas and try to do our best to mitigate any impacts during the process of construction. We're excited about the prospect of putting quality assurance to the project and oversight to SORBA to help them through the build process and be that liaison between the city and their build contractor. So really, next steps we're looking at, Nate alluded to a fall timetable for building the trail. Prior to that, we'd finish flagging. We would be looking at approval between all groups to say this flagging and these locations of the trail corridor are appropriate before any building happens. And once those things occur, it's building late fall, early winter, and I understand the property purchase may have structure on it with some tenants that would be ready to go by next March. So I'll ask if there's any questions you might have for me or Nate. And
Mr. Ives is here as well. If you have any questions about the potential property purchase, that we have an agreement in principle pending approval. But if you have any questions about any area, any aspect of this project, we'd be glad to answer those.
I think it's going to be a great addition to the park system. And one thing, I've been on a few mountain bike trails. They're a lot of fun, but a lot of times I had friends and acquaintances who wouldn't go hiking into the woods, but they would ride a bike through them. And I think it's another way for people to appreciate the environment that surrounds them. And I think, with the attention to the least amount of environmental impact that you have stressed, I think it's a great idea. And if there's no other questions.
Any questions?
How many times does this bike path actually cross the hiking path?
2 times.
2 times, that's right.
Only on 2 occasions.
So we'll use a variety of how we address that. Signage, we'll use natural features to slow bikers down on both sides.
And where possible, we'd like an uphill approach and managed by turns and natural obstacles that prevent any high-speed interaction there between the hikers and the approaching biking.
Well, I'm by no means a mountain biker, but I am a trail runner, and I've shared a lot of trails with mountain bikers, as well as Bennett facilities where it does the single-use idea. Single-use, like Bryant Grove Trail is a good example. You can run Bryant Grove, but then Jones Mills is right there, and that's dedicated to just mountain bike. So this is kind of the same model, isn't it?
Very much so.
And that works great. I was actually there Sunday, went for a run, and you see that it's there. you see a couple of cars, but that's the only impact you see from the trail. And then once they're on there, I've actually run those trails as well and had no problem. I probably shouldn't have gone on there, but it's pretty safe. I mean, so I like the idea of the single versus the shared for obvious reasons. But when I have been on shared, I've not had any issues. Usually you can see people from far enough away. And in a mountain bike, you're not going 30 miles an hour. You know, it's a lot different than a road bike. So you have to take that in consideration. Just a couple of questions. Is there any plans of a structure at the parking area?
As of right now, we don't have any plans. In the future, we might have some type of washing station, but it'd be very primitive on the existing pad that's there right now.
And you see this as this is what it would be, no plans of expansion of any sort?
Not at this park.
Okay. The only real issue is, I think of, what is the liability of having that? Because it is a dangerous activity. You'll see people that.
I think Mr. Tucker is here to address kind of the liability, our city attorney, and anything that we do has a certain level of liability to it. If you want to address that, as this is extraordinary in any way.
I would say that the liability isn't any different than any other use that of parks and recreation facilities. The same standards are going to apply. The fact that this is, might have an increased level of risk just because of the nature of the activity does not directly increase the city's liability because the activity is taking place on city property.
Part of our agreement with SORBA that this will kind of lead into is SORBA is an advocacy group. They're an education programming group as well. They'll be teaching fundamentals. They'll partner with us to teach fundamentals of cycling. They want to get into the schools and help expose people to activities that could lead towards lifelong wellness, and that really meets in line with our goal. But education is a huge part of that. Additionally, they'll help us maintain the trails. They'll have experts. When it rains, you can hike basically the next day. It might be 3 or 4 days after it rains to make sure we don't harm the landscape or create any future erosion issues with the mountain bike trail, and they help us monitor that. And that'll be done well through that exclusive use for the parking and trailhead area.
While we're discussing the safety aspect, will there be any conditions to use the facility as far as will you be required to wear helmets and knee pads and that type of equipment?
We'll go with the typical standards, but we'll have our safety signage up about what the requirements are to use the trail. We haven't gotten that far exactly with what that will say, but we'll use industry standards for that.
Is there any concern at all that we're not using the main entrance to the park as far as, I guess there's pluses and minuses to both scenarios where you have access to the park from the bike trail versus not having access to the park versus the bike trails, because this is pretty much in what I refer to as the back country of the park. Is there any point on the trails that you could physically enter the park area, or is that being avoided?
There's not, and that's by design, just because of how busy and how populated that park is already. It would be hard to add another amenity that we think will be a relatively large draw to take up parking for everything else that happens at that park. So I think one of our goals at the very beginning was to say, we've got to figure out a way to kind of separate this amenity completely so we don't interrupt the flow of the rest of the park.
I guess that was my ultimate question was if there is a connection, how will you avoid having people park in the current park area if they know that they can access the trailway from there versus going around and using the...
I think, Ryan, if you can point out on your screen where the wilderness station is in comparison to the purple trail, it's down, that road is volunteer road, so we've got quite a bit of ways, a lot of space between those things, so it won't be an easy access by any means.
We've got it pulled up on Google over here, and it's a pretty significant distance over to the wilderness station. So,
I'd say if there's any opportunity for unauthorized access, it'd be if one of these homeowners on Volunteer Drive was a biker and they could access a portion of the trail through their backyard. But other than that, it'd be a hard stretch to use a wilderness station without riding a bike on a hiking trail and then cross country, which would be unpermitted, unauthorized trail use.
Barfield Crescent Park's a very special place, and I'm really proud of the attention and work that Mr. Maloney, Mr. Williams, and several others have put in to get us up to this point, to make sure that we are bringing to you a recommendation that is going to best serve this community. And I'm really confident on where we are now with that process and with the steps that have been taken to get us to this point. The addition of that trailhead on the backside also allows for emergency access for our emergency services personnel to the backside of the park, which is something that I think, while hopefully will not be needed, is something that will serve the entire park and the community as well, just by creating that opportunity through that rear portion of Barfield Crescent Park as well.
I think it's excellent use of underutilized parkland. I move to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? There are none. Motion passes. Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you, sir.
And I think this is a tremendous opportunity for the city and another jewel in our crown. And we know that due diligence has been done and will continue to be done to respect the integrity and the ecology of one of our favorite parks over there. So
We'll bring you updates as we go through the process too, of where we stand as we get going.
thank you.
I do have an item for other business. If
Yes,
I can
ma'am.
interrupt. If we're, sorry, Becky. I jumped right in there. Mr. LaLance at our last meeting had asked us to take a look at our bollards on our greenway, and we are moving forward with his ask and that recommendation. We have done a lot of research on what type of bollards, the ones that are in place in the older portions of the trail that were installed in 1996-97 have served a long and arduous process and are absolutely due for replacement. There are a lot of new and improved types that we are working with and have done the research to those and have those that will be placed in. You will see them coming as you are out on our other jewel, our Murfreesboro Greenway system. You'll see those being added along as staff has the opportunity to install.
We just ordered 30 new bollards to start implementing.
Okay, great. That was a great idea Rick had. So, okay. Becky, you ready to tell us what else is going on?
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. Before I get started on some of our upcoming programs, I would like to mention that Borough Beach, our outdoor pool at Sportscom, is open for the season. We encourage everyone to come on out and go swimming. However, I do need to mention that our slides right now are down due to unforeseen circumstances with the pump motors, but they're working diligently on that and hope within the next 2 weeks that those slides will be up and running. But you can still come and enjoy the pool in the meantime. So I just wanted to mention that. And then this week we launched the start of Movies Under the Stars. That began this week. It's an 8-week program. We show a different movie each week. The movie begins at 8:30. It's free to attend. On Monday nights, we are at Barfield Crescent Park. Tuesdays at Cannonsburg Village. Thursdays at Richard Siegel Neighborhood Park. Friday evenings at Cason Trailhead. And Saturdays at Fountains of Gateway. We do sell some concessions, popcorn, snow cones, and beverages, but people can bring their own picnic lunch or their own snacks if they'd like. So we encourage people to come on out and enjoy the movie. And this is a great week to come watch the movie because the temperatures have been nice, the humidity's been low, so come on out while the getting's good. All right. Next, we have our third Friday night concerts at Cannonsburg Village. That starts Friday, June 15th is the first of them, and that's the Hands of Time Band. Then on July 20th, we have Chris Gantry, August 17th, South 231, and September 21st, Rockvale Blues. Those are the bands lined up for the third Friday night concerts. It's from 7 to 9 p.m. at Cannonsburg Village, and it is free to attend. We just want people to bring a lawn chair or blanket so that you can sit out there and enjoy the music. Then on Saturday, June 16th, we are celebrating Juneteenth. It's from 9 to 4 p.m. It's an all-day festival at Bradley Academy Museum and Cultural Center, and it begins with a parade at 9 a.m., and it's celebrating 100 years for Bradley Academy. And then back again this summer is our Splash Out program. That is a water day where we have the Murfreesboro Fire and Rescue Department come out with their fire trucks, and they spray the hose up in the air so the kids can run around with the water that sprays out of the hoses. And that is on a Thursday, June 28th, will be at Siegel Neighborhood Park. Thursday, July 12th at Barfield Crescent Park. Thursday, July 26th at Old Fort Park. And it's from 1:30 to 3. And it's just free to attend, and we encourage people to come on out for Splash Out. Then we have Boat Day. That is Saturday, June 30th. It is from 9 a.m. to noon. This is also a free program, and that is at Manson Pike Trailhead. And people can just come on out if they are interested in trying out different watercraft, or maybe want to purchase a kayak versus a canoe. So we will have different watercraft for people to come on out and try on Boat Day, Saturday, June 30th at Manson Pike Trailhead. And coming up rather quickly, it will be July 4th. So we are encouraging people to come on out and celebrate the 4th at Mcknight Park. We will have the Rock the Pool party at the outdoor pool from 10 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. We will have live bands from 4:30 until the conclusion of the fireworks, roughly about 9:25, 9:30. We will have family activities from 5 to 8. The fireworks will begin at 9 p.m. This is, with the exception of the pool party, the normal admission rates apply for the pool party, but for the bands, the family activities, and the fireworks, it is free to attend. So we encourage people to come on out to Mcknight Park on July 4th. And for more information on the programs that I mentioned and all of our other ongoing programs and events and summer camps, we encourage people to go to murfreesborotn.gov/parks. They can download our Summer Rec Connection. They can follow one of our Facebook pages. There's lots to see and do. Any questions?
Questions for Becky? A lot going on.
Yes.
Cool stuff. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there any more business for this commission today? Before we adjourn, I want to thank Sammy. Was this your first presentation today, Sammy? Very good. Thank you. If there's no other business, we'll stand adjourned.